Hello everybody and welcome back to another video on the channel. I know this video is a day late and I do apologise for that, but as you can tell by the title, we're going to be going over the retain list for the 2022-23 season for Charlton's squad. The fan base have been going absolutely mental about it and waiting to find out when it is eventually going to come out and find out painstakingly who is going to be leaving the club, which, to be honest, I think most of the fan base is more interested in than in terms of the players that we bring in. We want to know which of these players that have failed us for the past two seasons are still going to be here. And as a bit of a summary right now, I think it is the clear out that we needed. There are some interesting decisions in there and some decisions that I don't agree with, which we will, of course, go over. But I think all in all, we needed to be brutal. And I think, to be honest with you, that's exactly what we've been. So, without any further ado, let's go and read the actual club's retain list. They actually begin in the first opening lines by revealing who is actually being offered a contract and who is being released. So I'm just going to skip that part and we're just going to read the actual retain list. Full confirmation of the club's retained and release list can be found here. The following men's first team players are under contract for next season. That is Chuck Sanike, Corey Blackett-Taylor, Tyrese Campbell, George Dobson, Mandela Egbo, Scott Fraser, Daniel Kanu, Miles Lieburn, Ashley Maynard-Brewer, Zach Mitchell, Lucas Ness, Jack Payne and Joe Wallacott. The following players are out of contract and remain in discussions with the club regarding their futures. Michael Hector, Aaron Henry and Terrell Thomas. They are the three players that have been offered new contracts. The following players are set to return to the club following loan spells during the 2022-23 season. That is Richard Chin from Dartford, Deji Eleraway coming back from Bromley, Dealang Jaisimi from AFC Wimbledon, Charlie Kirk and Sam Lavelle from Burton Albion, and Conor McGrandles from Cambridge United. Those six are returning to the club following loans. The following players will leave the club following the expiration of their contracts. Macaulay Bonne, Sean Clare, Alex Gilby, Nathan Harness, Ryan Innes and Albie Morgan. They are the players that have been released. The following players will leave the club following the expiration of their loan deals. That, of course, being Todd Kane, Gavin Kilkenny, Matt Penny, Jez Raksaki and Stephen Sessignon. Then we have a quote from Dean Holden. He says, "Releasing a player is one of the hardest parts of being a football manager because I've got to know these guys really well in such a short space of time. However, my job is to make these decisions for the best interest of the club in order to realise our ambitions next season. I'd like to thank the players who are set to leave the club for what they have given to Charlton over the years." Albie Morgan is an academy graduate who has played nearly 150 games for the first team and has been here a large part of his life after joining Charlton at the age of 9. We're really grateful for everything he has done for the football club in that time. His commitment to the club has been first class since I arrived. Ryan Innes and Sean Clare have both embraced what being a Charlton player means, having contributed on the pitch and also winning the club's PFA Community Champion Award for the work they have done in the local community. Nathan Harness has been a consummate professional since I arrived, and while Macaulay Bonne and Alex Gilby have had their ups and downs at Charlton, we respect what they have contributed to the club. We thank everyone leaving for their hard work and wish them and their families the best in the future. Meanwhile, an update on the under-21s can be found below. The club have taken up the option to extend the contracts of Richard Chin, as previously announced, we knew that already, as well as Matthew Dench, Tolo Ladapo, Jacob Roddy, Jeremy Santos, Sadiel Torre and Ryan Viggers. The club have offered a new contract to Nazir Bakarin, so he's in negotiations right now. We don't know whether he's going to be staying next year. The club have not taken up the option to extend the contracts of Billy French, Nathan Harvey and Mac Riley. We knew that already because the players did actually announce on social media long before this. And the following players will leave the club following the expiration of their contracts: Charlie Barker, Dylan Gavin, which is another one that we knew, Harris O'Connor and Sam Oganteo. Everyone at the club would like to wish every player who is leaving the best of luck in the future and thank them for their efforts during their time at Charlton. An update on the current under-18 squad will be confirmed in due course, but that is not necessarily important because they're not really going to break into the first team anytime soon, or I would have thought anyway. So there's the retain list. There it is. Like I said, some very interesting decisions in there and some very controversial ones. So I suppose we should begin really with the three players that have been offered contracts. That, of course, being Hector, Henry and Thomas. Now, obviously, if you would have seen my assessment of the out-of-contract players over the last couple of weeks and month or so, you will know who I wanted to keep. And Hector and Henry were both on that list. Michael Hector, I think on paper, we'd be stupid to let him go. And I do think that with a full pre-season under his belt, which of course he didn't get this season, sorry, the season just gone. He didn't get that, having been released from Fulham, and he joined us in January. He was without a club all the way through there. With a full pre-season under his belt, he could be a different animal this season. But I must admit, I'm still not massively convinced on Hector, and you guys will know this. I don't think he played as well as people made him out to be. That is, of course, it's subjective. Everyone's obviously entitled to their opinion. But I personally was not a massive fan of Hector. But that being said, I'm not stupid enough to know that we do need to keep him for next season. And like I said, with a full pre-season under his belt, he could be a different animal in the league next year. Do I think it's likely he'll sign a new contract? I suspect there will be interest, because realistically he should not be playing in League One, and definitely should not be playing for a mid-table League One side who at the moment is not looking good going into this season in terms of investing into the club and the transfer window. But if Hector does end up staying, I think it will feel like a new signing. Aaron Henry is one that caused a lot of debate amongst the fan base. A lot of people were sort of taken aback by the fact that we gave him a new contract and we let Alvin Morgan go. And to be honest with you, I think it's fairly easy to work out, because Henry has time on his side. He's 19 years old. He still shows a bit of promise. He's played a couple of games this season. He's looked shaky, but that comes with inexperience. You know, he is an inexperienced player. He's not played many men's first team appearances. He's had, I think, a couple of spells out in non-league, which I don't think will benefit him if we do, give him a new contract and we loan him out again, because I think that's exactly what he needs. I think he does need to go back out on loan again. Like I said, he's got time on his side. He's only 19. Like, we'd be stupid to get rid of him, in my opinion, because I do think there is a player there, and he's half got a shot on him, with the goal he scored against QPR, and he can take a sweet free kick, and his passing on occasion can be good. But like I said, in the appearances in the league this season, he has been very shaky. But I think we'd be stupid to let him go. But I do think we need to loan him out. I think at the very least he needs to be going to a top-end National League side, or test himself and go to League Two. I mean, it's going to be interesting either way whether what sort of role he's going to play, but it's clear Holden has him somewhat in his plans with offering him a new contract. Now let's get into the one that I, to be honest with you, completely disagree with. Terrell Thomas. I don't really know what we're thinking, to be honest with you. And I did have a bit of a debate on social media, on Twitter, with a few fans, or in social media in general. You guys know that I don't rate Thomas. I don't rate him. I'm sorry, I don't rate the guy. I know he didn't have a pre-season, but it's just the same mistake that we made last season, diving into the free agent market for a player that no one wants, for him to come in to compete in the first team. And the truth is, in my opinion anyway, Thomas has had 3 or 4 good games this season, and that came in March when he was playing out of position at left back. Yes, he played very well, and I will give him credit to that, and I did give him credit. I said he played really well, and fair play to him. But did he do enough this season to warrant a contract extension? I would say no. I'd say absolutely not. I think he's been very shaky. I think he's been very poor. And ultimately, if he does sign a new contract, he has to be a rotational player. He has to be 4th choice centre-back, and that's it. And it's going to take a lot of convincing for me to change my opinion of him. And I don't get it, to be honest. I don't get Thomas getting that contract extension. But I guess you could say the same for Michael Hector. If he gets a full pre-season under his belt, which of course he will get it, then maybe it'll do him the world of good, and he'll come out a better player with obviously a bit more match fitness. But I don't know. I don't get it. It's the weirdest decision out of all of them, to be honest with you, giving him a new contract. But I suppose he is a good player and a cheap option, shall we say, to have as a rotational player. But that's all I see him as. Now, of course, the big one that we need to discuss right now is, of course, the players that have left the club, the out-of-contract players that have been released. And like I said, for the most part, I think we've done well. First name on the list there, Macaulay Bonne. I think we saw that coming. It was very evident he wasn't going to be staying. And I actually quite like the club article, not just for Bonne, but for Gilby as well. The fact that, they don't really give them much credit for their time at the club, and they mention it. They say, oh yeah, we respect it. But you can definitely tell there's a bit of bad blood there, obviously, with both of their social media antics. But anyway, beginning with Bonne, yeah, he has completely tarnished his reputation at this club, and to be honest with you, he's a disgrace. That's the brutal truth, really. He's come into the club, he said all the right things, saying, oh, what I said wasn't aimed at the club, it was just out of frustration and whatnot. And I think that his antics this season, not just from his performances, but also his social media exploits, have shown exactly where his head is. First and foremost, he's been absolutely shocking on the pitch. I think I was actually one of the many few that actually liked him in his first stint at the club. I think he stepped up in the Championship when we needed him most, when Lyle Taylor got that injury, but sadly, that whole reputation and that whole support that I had for him, unfortunately, and respect for him as well, unfortunately, is now gone. And rightly so, he's been released. The one that I disagree with the most on this list, and you guys will know this from social media, is Sean Clare. Personally, I don't know what we're doing getting rid of him. I'm gutted. I'm really gutted because I really like Clare at his time with the club, and I think he was made out to be quite poor this season, which I don't agree with. I think he was one of our better performers this season. That might be controversial. Yes, he had his inconsistencies, and I do think at times at right back he got caught out a few times, but I think he has a lot to offer, and I still think he had a lot to offer coming into the club. I mean, I think we'd all agree his natural position is in the midfield. That being said, you know, the past four managers at this club have not liked him in that position and have preferred to play him in a more defensive role. He was brilliant last season. This season, I still think he was decent, but yeah, I would have thought he would have had a lot more to offer. And I do wish Clare all the best because, as the article alludes to there, he was not just, in my opinion, a decent player on the pitch. I liked him a lot, but he was also a fantastic character off the pitch, you know, with helping out with the community and the upbeats and everyone. So I do wish Clare all the best in the future. Alex Gilbey, I said it already with Macaulay Bonne. Again, I think his reputation at the club and the respect that any Charlton fan had for him is also gone with his video of him saying we all hate Charlton or something like that with the Stevenage fans and whatever you want to think of that. I'm afraid it just shows exactly where his head's at the moment. I fully expect him to be going to Stevenage permanently and we'll be playing against him next season. But yeah, he showed exactly where his head's at. Sadly, over the past 3 seasons, or the past 2 seasons where he wore the Charlton shirt, he was not the player that we thought we signed from MK Dons. You know, he won the Player of the Year there 2 years running. He comes to us, he has a shocking start. He started to, you know, get back into it a little bit under Adkins. Last season, what was it, 2 goals, 1 assist, or the other way round, I don't know, but that's not enough from a midfielder that's supposed to be, I suppose, box to box, so a bit creative, a bit attacking, someone who likes to get into the box and have shots. Sadly, that's not enough, and unfortunately, Gilbey has not done enough. Nathan Harness, again, is another one I expected to be moved on. You know, he's our 3rd choice goalkeeper. He can't be sitting around on the bench for too much longer, and not even on the bench. You know, like I say, he is our 3rd choice goalkeeper, and he needs to begin his career. Yes, he's 23. He's got age on his side as a goalkeeper. You know, goalkeeper, you got a very long career there, but sadly, he can't keep wasting away. Not even in the squad, in the reserves, basically, not getting minutes, and he needs to really kickstart his career. Ryan Innes, I am absolutely delighted about with this coming through. And honestly, it's a decision I wasn't expecting us to make. I genuinely thought, like, there was a part of me that thought we were going to give Innes a contract, and thankfully we haven't, and he does depart the club after 3 seasons. Completely the right decision, and he will probably go down as probably the most frustrating player I've ever seen play for Charlton since Naby Sarr. Genuinely, he was that frustrating because I know how good he can be. I know how good of a centre-back he can be. I think we all know this. On his day, when he's not injured and he's not being an absolute moron on the pitch and losing his head and being a liability, getting himself sent off, he is a decent centre-back at this level. I think rightly so, Holden, after he got that 3-match ban, excluded him from the final game of the season. You know, that lineup itself spoke volumes. You know, players that were left out of the squad have ended up leaving. So yeah, entirely the right decision to get rid of Innes. Too much of a liability, and we could do a lot better than that. I think the saddest one, though, out of all of them from a sentimental value, is, of course, Albie Morgan. Sentimentally, it's gutting to see him go because I have liked Morgan. I have. And I've loved seeing him come through the ranks. You know, obviously, he's been at Charlton since the age of 9. He's been here, 14 years? He's 23 now. You know, he's come through the ranks. He's broke into the team. He was part of the team that got us promoted. You know, he played a few games in the season we got relegated. I think he got his big chance in 2020-21 where he had a good season, and then he got all that pressure put on him by being given the number 10 last season, and despite getting 7 assists, most amount of assists in the team, he massively underperformed. And I think the same again with this season. I think what's let Morgan down is his inconsistency. I think if he figures that out, he can be a decent player, and I stand by that because I do like Morgan. On his day, he can be a good player. You know, he's not afraid to have a shot. I think his shooting has improved massively, and his game has improved since he's been at the club. That's a fact. I don't know where he's going to end up, whether he ends up in League One or League Two, but nevertheless, I do wish Morgan all the best because he did care for the club. He was made in Charlton. He was made in Charlton at the end of the day. So yeah, wish him all the best in the future. It is a shame to see him go from a sentimental value, but unfortunately, I think it was the right time. Inconsistency let him down. He certainly was not, in my opinion, good enough to lead us forward in a starting 11 team for next season. If we were to keep him, I felt he would just have to be a squad player. Of course, we have the 5 players that have left the club following the expiration of their loans. That, of course, being Kane, Kilkenny, Penny, Raksaki and Sessegnon. Todd Kane struggled with injury, struggled with keeping himself fit, and sadly was a move that I didn't really think we needed when we first signed him anyway. But yeah, a move that didn't work out. Gavin Kilkenny, supposed to be the next big thing at Bournemouth, and he struggled to get into a mid-table League One side. Looked okay in a couple games that he played, but still nowhere near the quality where we expected of him. Matt Penny, absolutely shocking. 3 games I think he played, or maybe just a bit more than that. But yeah, absolutely dreadful. And it speaks volumes really that Thomas got ahead of him at left-back when he is obviously a natural left-back. Jez Raksaki, joy to watch, absolutely fantastic. By far our best player this season, levels above this league, and I'm really going to be looking forward to seeing his career and how it unfolds in the near future. I will be watching his career with the utmost interest and intrigue. I suspect that he will be playing in the Championship at the very least next season, or even could be on the fringes of Palace's first team. And credit to Stephen Sessegnon as well. You know, he played really well at his time with the club on loan from Fulham. You know, he coming into a team, you know, in a position that was unnatural to him, you know, obviously playing left back, but he played, in my eyes, really, really well. And obviously he struggled with injury throughout the season. He had a knee injury that he was nursing all the way through the summer. With the academy players that have left, of course, we knew that French, Harvey, Riley and Dylan Gavin had all left the club, because obviously they announced on social media before the retain list came out. And ultimately, the same goes for Nathan Harness, really. These players just weren't going to get into the first team, and they need to go on and get their careers going, really. Charlie Barker is a shame, considering the amount of minutes that he had previously, and I thought he looked really good, especially in the behind closed doors period when the club was nearing administration, when Sangod first bought the club. I thought he looked quite comfortable in the games that he did play for us. Obviously, had a couple moments. I think he scored an own goal against Doncaster, I think it was, earlier on in the season. But yeah, nevertheless, I felt that there was a decent player but again, he has to kickstart his career, and he's got to move on and get some minutes, and the same with O'Connor and Uganteo. So what I want to do now is I want to take a look at the squad as it stands right now, heading into next season. So if you'll excuse me, I'm going to bring back the famous Excel document. Is back. We are bringing it back, and it is basically, as you can see at the bottom left there, the exact same document that I used in the video of me brutally assessing the squad. And I haven't really made any changes to it, to be honest with you. It's still colour-coded exactly the same as you can see, but I have changed it for green to be the players that have been offered new contracts. So players that are in green, as you can see there, are the 3 players that have been offered new deals, and obviously they're not guaranteed to be signing those contracts. And obviously if they're in red, they're a player that I want to let go, and if they're in yellow, I'm not exactly decided. But from just taking a look at it on first glance, if you want to do like the 2 player per position sort of rule, immediately I'm seeing we need a right back, realistically 2 left backs, because Richard Chin I don't think is a left back, possibly a CDM or another defensive midfielder to cover for Dobson. Couple of midfielders, maybe you're looking at about, in total, probably what, 2 to maybe even a third central midfielder, and probably another striker. There's not a lot of quality. There is really not a lot of quality, and you can see the amount of work that needs to be done. I mean, goalkeeper, like I've said in previous videos, is the position I'm least worried about. We don't really need to strengthen there. We've got 2 able goalkeepers in Wallacott and Maynard Brewer. Right back, obviously we need a right back anyway, because we've only got 1 in Egbo. And Egbo, if he can keep himself fit, I think he's going to be a solid player this season, or next season, should I say. Richard Chin, obviously, has had his contract extended by a further year. Don't know what role he's going to play. He was at Dartford in the second half of the season in the National League South, so I don't know what sort of role he's going to end up playing. The centre-back department is one of the positions that I'm most concerned about. Obviously, we've got Hector and Thomas, who have been offered new contracts. If they don't sign new deals, it obviously is left with Lavelle, Ness, Eleraway and Mitchell. Lavelle, I'd let go personally. I would let him go, and I would say that he's quite likely that he leaves. I don't think he had a good season this year. I know he's obviously been injured, and he did play a couple of decent games in the Carabao Cup, but sadly, I think we could do a lot better than that. Lucas Ness, he's got a big season ahead of him. The fact that he walked into the first team after being on loan at Torquay United is incredible, so I think he's got a lot of potential there. And I don't know what sort of role Eleraway and Mitchell were going to play. You know, Eleraway obviously had a pretty decent loan spell at Bromley, albeit a disastrous time in the playoff campaign. Obviously, he scored against Woking, I think it was, and then against Chesterfield, he scored an own goal and got sent off. So that was quite a disastrous end to the season, and I do feel bad for him there. But he did have a decent spell and an encouraging loan spell there. And as for Mitchell, he obviously played a couple of games this season, won the League One Apprentice of the Year award, of course. But I'm not entirely sure what sort of role he's going to play. So the centre-back department really lacks depth and really lacks quality, in my eyes anyway, because I don't know what sort of role Eleraway and Mitchell are going to play, hence why they're in yellow. I'd let Lavelle go. Hector, I don't know if he's going to end up signing a contract. I would say, personally, it's unlikely, but if he wants to get regular minutes, he's sure as hell going to get that here. And as for Thomas, like I said, if he does sign a new contract extension, I want him to be a rotational player and nothing more than that. In terms of the midfield, Jules Dobson, as I said, he's out of contract at the end of next season, so we've got to do everything in our power to keep hold of him. Fraser obviously had let's face it, as much as I've given him pelters this season, he has had a decent season, and I think he will again be one of the first names on the team sheet on paper anyway. Jack Payne, useful squad player to have. Conor McGrandles, if he can come back and keep up the form that he had against Cambridge, I'm excited to see what he can do. But honestly, I'm not massively decided on him yet. I don't really know if we're going to keep him or we're going to let him go, to be honest with you. Either way, I'm not really fussed. Aaron Henry, obviously, if he signs that contract extension, it's another body in the midfield. But like I said, it lacks the depth and it lacks the quality. The wingers, Jai Simi, get rid, most average winger I've ever seen play at the club. Tyrese Campbell, not sure what sort of role he's going to play. I mean, he's had, as I said, he's had his good moments this season. In previous videos, I've said it. He's had some decent games, but 2 shows his inexperience. I'm not sure how we're going to play that one. Blackett Taylor, obviously he's come off his best goal scoring season to date. Going to be a key player to keep hold of. Charlie Kirk was initially yellow, but I've changed him to red as a player that I would let go. But that being said, if he does end up staying, this season coming up is make or break for him. But then again, we said that I think I said it last season. But this season coming up now, 2023-24, is make or break for Kirk. He really, really does have to kick on under Holden. Miles Leaburn, no doubt, will be attracting interest. We've got to do everything in our power to keep hold of him. Chuck Saniko I'd let go purely because he's injury prone. On his day, when he is fit, he's a menace at this level. But sadly, we haven't seen that enough, and we need to move on from the injury prone players. And I don't know what sort of role Daniel Kanu is going to end up playing. So that is the squad currently going into next season, with, of course, Hector, Thomas and Henry to be confirmed. At the moment, you'd have to say in certain positions with the squad you see on your screen now, we do have the depth there. It just lacks quality in abundance. We really, really do lack quality. And we were brutal with the retain list, and I do agree with a lot of the decisions. A lot of the players that, to be fair, I didn't expect some of these players that got released to be released. I honestly thought we'd probably keep hold of them, the likes of Morgan and Innes. But I do think Holden has done well. I think he's done very well with these decisions, albeit with Sean Clare getting released. But that is the brutality that we needed to have with the retain list. And I think that it is the clear out that we needed. Now we need to take that into the current contracted players, and we need to be brutal there. We need to be aggressive. We need to let players go, let them go out on loan, sell players, players that have let us down for the past 2 seasons, and hopefully bring in quality players that can help us for promotion next season. But with the current regime in place and the whole Sandgarden takeover nonsense going on, you'd have to say that's unlikely. But we just have to sit here and wait for it to unfold. That is it for this video, guys. That is me reacting to the 2022-23 Charlton Athletic retain list. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, can you possibly leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and turn on those post notifications so you're notified of every time I upload a new video. What do you guys think of our retain list and the decisions that Dean Holden has made? Let me know in the comments below. This has been Tyler Ronaldson. Have a nice day, and I'll see you all in the next video, which will be coming out very shortly. I'm having a lot of time on my hands now to record videos for you guys in the summer. I've got a lot of videos planned, so stay tuned for that. Take it easy, guys. Stay safe, and I'll see you all then.